Good morning, Jamaica. It is Wednesday, October 1, 2025, and we're back for post-cabinet press briefings. It's been a while, and I am so happy to be here this morning to again bring to the entire country what this administration is doing. There is wonderful work being done, and this post-cabinet press briefing that we do on a Wednesday morning is our administration's commitment to the people of Jamaica to provide you with timely information on what this administration is doing. We have a really good audience here with us today, and I think it's because of who our guest is today. She is absolutely wonderful, and I'll go through the acknowledgements really quickly. With us is our special guest today, Senator the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, and, if I dare say so, the best Minister of Foreign Affairs in the entire world. She tells me it's Jamaica, but she is the best at it. I also want to acknowledge the Honorable Rhoda Moy Crawford, the Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. Senator Marlon Morgan, our Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. And we have some of our esteemed permanent secretaries with us. The one from the best ministry, Dr. Kassan Troop, who is here, and Ambassador Sheila Seeley Monteith, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, who I learned from. I was sat at her feet when I was 21 years old. Oh, no, probably 20. I sat at her feet, and she's very instrumental in my own approach to life and to this world. And we also have Ambassador Rocky Mead, who I also sat at his feet, but at a little older age, and learned so much, our Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister. We also have Lieutenant Colonel, retired Godfrey Sterling here with us, who's the Director of the Cyber Incident Response Team Division. We also have Ambassador Cheryl Spencer, our Undersecretary for Multilateral Affairs Division, Mr. Craig Douglas, the Director of the International Organizations Department, IOD, that's where I was, and also we have many students with us from UWI, UTEC, and the Caribbean Maritime University here. They're studying international relations, which is why they're here, and many of them are also a part of the Model UN program. And so they're here especially because of the guests that we have today. And of course, we do this because of our members of the media. It is very good to see all of you. And I also want to acknowledge all of our Jamaicans at home and abroad who are watching with us this morning. And so, given that very long list of persons here, I'm going to go very quickly into the preliminaries before I invite our Minister of Foreign Affairs to come and speak to you. So we are back. The administration is back, the administration led by Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness. We have a mandate from the people of Jamaica, and it's a mandate that we take very seriously. And the Prime Minister has charged the Cabinet to ensure that we act with integrity at all times, to ensure that the Cabinet delivers on the promises that have been outlined in the manifesto. At our first meeting of Cabinet, all of the ministers were reminded of the manifesto. They were all given copies of the manifesto because that document is our commitment that we made to the people of Jamaica. And so they're not just things that were put in to win an election. They are things that we truly believe are going to change and transform Jamaica. In the Prime Minister's first message to the Cabinet at our first meeting, he reiterated the importance of this term. This 5-year term is about transforming Jamaica. That's what it is about. And so everything every minister will be doing has to have a transformative effect. In his charge to us, he also said that we need to move from the hardware of the country, like, the macroeconomic stability things. Move from the hardware of the country to the software and the hardware of the country. If we are going to deliver on the promise of Jamaica, we're going to have to build on that economic frame that has been given. And he was very clear to us that we have to look at some of the difficult issues confronting our country, including truly getting to a peaceful country. And so he again also reiterated, make opportunity for all. Everyone has to be lifted up. Safety and security. We've done a lot of work. The JCF, or security forces, have done a tremendous job in bringing murders down and bringing crime down, but there's much more we have to do to truly get to that safe society. People, human capital development at the center of everything. An emphasis on education, on skills training, because we understand that every Jamaican should reach their full potential, and that's how they will reach that full potential. The reform of bureaucracy. We're the fastest country in the world, but we're slow in terms of our bureaucracy. We have to speed it up. And that is an area that's an absolute priority for a state or any country does in the face of a changing state or any country does in the face of a changing global dynamic. And so all the ministers got their charge, and we are all ready to go. We are all committed to the mission that has been laid out by our Prime Minister. And in these post-cabinet press briefings, you will see the ministers. You will see the ministers coming to tell you about the transformational work that they are doing. It is not going to be secret. This work is for all of Jamaica. And that's why we have these press briefings. We come, we open ourselves up as an administration. Sometimes the media asks some very hard questions, but that's not what a democracy is about. The media is central to this democratic process that we hold dear in Jamaica. And so we come here on a Wednesday and we open ourselves up because we understand that that is what true democracy is about. A government that is answerable to the people. And so, having said all of that, I will do what I always start with a few good news things. I have a long list, as always, but I can't do all of them because we have our guests to speak today. So I'll start with one. Standard & Poor's Global Ratings upgraded Jamaica's sovereign credit rating from BB- to BB. Now, many people don't understand what that means, but it means that our country, our sovereign credit rating, is better than many European countries. It's better than other Caribbean countries. Jamaica is one that is seen globally as leading in relation to our sovereign credit rating. When we look at our debt to GDP ratio, going from 145% in 2013 to 62%. When we get to 60%, we'll be at investment grade. We never dreamed that Jamaica would be at investment grade. This is amazing. We should be shouting this from the rooftop, my UE and CMU and UTech students. This is what you should be focusing on as you are studying. Look at what Jamaica has achieved and look at what you are going to be taking and using that to build the new Jamaica. You're going to build that new Jamaica, you know. All this hard work we're doing is for you. And so you should be shouting about all of this. This is a big deal. And so it says when we're at this, when we get to 60, which we're getting much quicker than we thought we would, it means that we will be investment grade. It means we won't have to worry about what interest rate we're going to be getting when we go to the debt markets. it is a place we never thought we would be in. And so we, as a government, we're celebrating it. We congratulate our Prime Minister because he stuck to this. It was hard, and he stuck to it, and we are all very grateful for it. The other thing I'll highlight is our rural school bus system, which got off the ground on September 8th. And we are very happy that it is being implemented quite well. As with anything that's new, you work through any kinks that are there. Our children love it. Our parents love it even more than the children. And that is really what government is about. And when we talk about all this fiscal management and all of that fancy terminology, it has meaning when you see the school bus. School buses are things you saw on TV, you dreamed about, you went to, you traveled abroad, or you watched TV shows and you saw it. And you thought, oh, that's what a developed country looks like. You never dream it would be here in Jamaica. But it's here because of good fiscal management. So good fiscal management is not just theoretical, it has real meaning for people. And so when I see the joy on our children's faces when they go on it, I am reminded that the hard work of fiscal discipline actually can make lives truly better. And so we're encouraging parents to work with the JUTC to get your student card. There's a special student card that is being produced for students. Please sign up for that card. It is that card that the students will start using very soon to swipe when they go on the bus. And when they swipe that card, each parent will get an alert that they have entered the bus. They will get an alert also when they have left the bus. So you notice we're not just doing school bus, Jamaica does things bigger. And so that is very important, and it's an important feature of our school buses. And so we're encouraging parents to go and sign up. And of course, as you sign up, you have to give your phone number because we have to send the messages to someone. And so it's not just, just going and sending your child to get a card. It's actually a more involved process. And we remind you that students are riding free up to the end of October, and thereafter there will be a flat subsidized fare of $50 for each way, which is a significant improvement on what our parents have to pay. And so I'll stop with those two. There are many more on what's happening in fishing and some other things in terms of nutrition, but we have a special guest here, and we're going to have first up, we're going to do foreign affairs, but then we're also going to be having Godfrey Sterling coming up to speak about Cyber Awareness Month. October is Cyber Awareness Month. It's an important issue. It's an important global issue too. And so he will be coming later in the program. But we are going to start with our esteemed Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, who went to UN for her 10th time. This was her 10th appearance at UN. She is seen globally as one of the shining lights in foreign policy anywhere in the world. And so I welcome you this morning, and I'm so happy to have you here reporting on foreign affairs and what happened at the UN. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dana. And thank you even more for the energy and the spirit that you've brought to this post-cabinet press briefing, and indeed the outreach, because having students present here today and academic staff from our major institutions, educational institutions, and in particular those who are interested in foreign affairs, has inspired me to not cut my 20-page presentation and instead to share as much as I can so that we can not only facilitate and foster further conversations, because this is what it's about. It's not just about the information we share here, but it's about how we engage beyond this particular forum. I want to welcome my team again and thank them for their support in ensuring that Jamaica's voice is not only heard internationally, but it is listened to. and our international relations students will understand the difference between the two and recognize that one has to be very strategic in order to achieve that result, and that nuanced approaches are often required in order to get so. So thank you, team. And again, I look forward to working with you for another term and for us to achieve even greater things as we go forward. I want to, of course, discuss our presence at the UN last week. And I find it interesting, PS Mead, you might be concerned, maybe CABSEC, that my briefing started before I was sworn. But that's part of the parallel process to make sure that we get everything done seamlessly. And just to give the assurance that every attention, every effort was made to ensure that our presence at the General Assembly would be impactful. The 80th session, because this is what we attended, the 80th session of the General Assembly. The delegation was led by Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, and we were joined by Ministers Samuda on the matter of climate change. You know, he now heads the Ministry of Water, Environment and Climate Change, MWEC, and we're also working through, as you will learn in further elaborations, how we are moving forward with oceans within that context as well. And the Minister of Health, Dr. Christopher Tufton, who addressed meetings in relation to NCDs and other matters. Both ministers will undoubtedly share specifically on their portfolios as Minister Tufton proceeded directly to go to PAHO meetings right after, where he still is, and therefore will have a broader international update to be provided in respect of our engagement on health. And this helps to also share that international affairs cuts across the entire gamut of government. I'm sure you've heard me say it before that Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade is in many ways the unseen hand behind government. We've been trying to make our hand a little more seen, because sometimes if you're not seen, people don't understand your value. And I have an amazing team that has been doing many things for to raise Jamaica's profile since our birth, because Jamaica's first ministry, when we became independent, was indeed the Ministry of External Affairs. So we celebrate our existence together with the existence of Jamaica as an independent country. And I think the importance of that should never be lost, because it signals how important, and rather the focus that we try to bring to the work that we do. So present at the 80th session, the theme of the General Assembly, of course, was focused on recognizing where we are at 80 years of multilateralism, the very challenging period which we're experiencing as a world, geopolitical tensions, conflicts at the highest level, challenges to multilateralism itself, and how it is that as a world, as 193 member states, how we work together as best as possible in order to navigate these waters, while also ensuring that we balance our engagements in the interests of Jamaica's national development goals. So at the core of our attendance was, of course, the presentation of the national policy statement by the Prime Minister. In that statement, I will give you just in very high-level summary that he underscored Jamaica's priorities in the multilateral system to include reform and revitalization of the United Nations. Jamaica has been at the heart of the reform process, and attendant to that is that we have now been asked, together with New Zealand, to lead the process of review of all of the mandates, the implementation of UN mandates, in order to be able to propose a way forward for the United Nations. So Jamaica, every time you hear somebody say, oh, Jamaica is not respected anymore, and no. Jamaica has just been asked to lead, together with New Zealand, the process of mandate implementation review for the United Nations at 80 process. So, and what this requires is for us, every time the General Assembly passes a resolution, it has a mandate, and that means that the UN must do something. There are more than 2,000 of these, and all of them have not been implemented. And our process is now to work with all of the member states to go through what needs to be dispensed with, what needs to be focused on, what needs to be clarified. But in any event, how do we fix things to make multilateralism work? How do we try to, exit this global morass of challenge to the multilateral system by helping to make it more effective? So we are leading that process together with New Zealand, and during our process in the week, we asked for the support of all countries who are excited about Jamaica's measured, reasonable, and always well-informed voice and approach to this process. Prime Minister also spoke about climate resilience and financing for development, as well as peace and security, and I'll speak a little more about that. He repeated Jamaica's call for the integration of Cuba into the international systems, for a ceasefire and a just resolution to the crisis in the Middle East, and for the necessary financial and logistical support to transition to a more effective hybrid mechanism to restore peace and constitutional order in Haiti. He also called on the international community to mount a global war on gangs to disrupt the flow of weapons, money, and influence that fuel transnational organized crime. And he also highlighted Jamaica's own example of a small island developing state that, as Minister Morris Dixon would always remind you from her days in academia, that had always been designated as a basket case, that we now have demonstrated and are continuing to demonstrate that even from those challenging circumstances, with sound policies, fiscal discipline, and good governance, small nations can achieve progress. We can turn our ship around, and we can tell our own story. And so we continue to work towards economic independence. The Prime Minister urged the international community to ensure that we're working together to manifest an international system that is fair, that is inclusive, and that is responsive. So I wanted to touch back on Haiti, because this was a major focus for us during UN Week, as it has been for some time. And you would have followed in the press that yesterday there was a breakthrough in the Security Council, and it passed a new resolution to create a successor mission to the multi-country security support mission that is currently in Haiti. That mission actually expires tomorrow. So it was absolutely critical that a vote be taken and that we have an agreed way forward that would not leave not only Haiti at odds as to what next for us, and is the international community leaving us behind, but it's also for the forces that are there to ensure that there is a next chapter, a next phase that is UN-backed and that will have resources in order to ensure that we do our very best. Jamaica has been stating within CARICOM and externally that not only are we concerned about Haiti for Haiti's sake, we're concerned about Haiti from the perspective of her people, of the chronic humanitarian crisis and the security crisis that has, of course, spiraled into mass dislocation, gross humanitarian abuses, and really a situation that cannot be allowed to be forgotten just because the media prefers to highlight other areas. It must be that from solidarity and also proximity and Jamaica's concern for regional security and our own national security interests, that we do our best by our brothers and sisters in Haiti. So we have been advocating for support for this new transitional, not the transitional mechanism, but a new mechanism, a successor mechanism, as well as the establishment of a new mission office, UN mission office in Haiti, which will allow for more predictable funding and more systematic support of the mission that is deployed there. It means that now there is more discussion to take place, more planning. PS Meade, PS Sealy Monteith, Ambassador, we're on it already. We're already in discussions. Jamaica has agreed to be a part of the group of standing partners. One of the countries, member countries of the group of standing partners that will be a part of the planning and the standing up of the new gang suppression force, as well as the monitoring and engagement as between that force and the Security Council. So again, we very much had affirmed the need to ensure sustainable, predictable resourcing of the force by all international partners. We take note as well that this mission is intended to work in parallel with the OAS roadmap for Haiti's return to stability and security, which focuses more on the humanitarian aspects. And guys, I really encourage you, research these matters. The OAS roadmap, remember OAS charter doesn't allow it to engage in security missions, but the UN does under Chapter 7. So recognizing that the issues are so multifaceted and that our region is particularly challenged from a resource perspective, while not from a will perspective. So the aim is to try to bring those processes together and see how best we're able to work as a world and as a hemisphere to help Haiti with Haiti's own ownership of its governance and priorities to return to stability and indeed constitutional order. Beyond this, sorry, I'm just having a little technical issue here, and I don't want to ad-lib too much and then end up speaking for too long, because I'm already at it. Sorry. Mr. Sterling? I've not been hacked, but I don't know why this is not going through for some reason. Mm-hmm. It's not giving me for some reason. Normally you just, yeah, this is it. Mm-hmm. Maybe let's go back to this. Okay. Thank you. So we're much appreciated, sir. Thank you very much. Your basic skills are recertified. So indicated, of course, that Jamaica also spoke on climate, and this included our participation in the climate summit. So although I've indicated that Minister Samuda is going to come to speak expressly on Jamaica's full climate agenda and environmental agenda, I will just indicate that Prime Minister Holness in particular, and the Climate Action Plan targets emission cuts of 26% to 41.7% by 2035, and notes our progress and that we are on track for a target of 50% renewables by 2030. At the high-level panel on sustainable ocean economy, this is the Ocean Panel Leaders Meeting, Prime Minister attended, supported by Minister Samuda, and it's interesting to note that Prime Minister Holness participated as the only remaining founding leader. So 14 countries founded this Ocean Leaders Panel, but through elections, all countries have rotated into different leaders, save Prime Minister Holness, who returned. So he is the elder among the group. And so they welcomed him warmly. And it was, of course, very important for us to be able to share through our leadership on issues, solutions, and our lived experience. Remember, we're at 15% of protecting our maritime waters and 25% of our terrestrial. So when the world is speaking about bringing countries on board to agree to the 30 by 30, we're already working at 30 by 30. We're halfway there for marine and well on our way for terrestrial, and we will get even further. But in doing these things, in all of this work, we also recognize that championing sustainability of our oceans, which will sustain and support climate stability, and biodiversity, it will also create jobs, new jobs, new areas of interest for our young people. You come out with a degree in climate or in a niche area looking at the environment, but then there are no jobs because the NGO space is small, and you end up doing a job that doesn't fill your heart because you know what you want to be doing is working for a greener, cleaner, more beautiful Jamaica. And now with a new ministry that is being established, and as we look at trying to expand the institutionalization of how we treat with the blue economy, that these are also knock-on effects, very special knock-on effects that help to grow the economy that Minister Morris Dixon was speaking about. We also, of course, in that moment, were able to build on Jamaica joining all the world leaders who have now participated in more than 60 ratifications of the BBNJ agreement, taking us past the threshold for it to come into effect. And this will occur in January officially, but now we're past. It required 60 ratifications in order to come into effect, so we've passed that, and that is absolutely something to be welcomed. As for myself, as foreign minister participating at that level, Jamaica was present to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Platform for Action for the Empowerment of Women and Girls, which was absolutely wonderful. And there were 3 events lined up around that as well, with the Women Rise for All, that helped for networking with women in business, politics. You had former and current leaders, leaders in tech, leaders in every sphere of business that you could imagine, and therefore Jamaica was honored to be invited to be a part of that grouping. There was also the women leaders gathering, a very small one, at which Hillary Clinton gave the keynote, recognizing that it was her who had in fact made the assertion that women's rights are human rights and human rights are women's rights. And that's the end of the story. That having been done 30 years ago was the start of a new approach and a new welcoming approach to the empowerment of women and girls as a part of the international agenda. On peace and security, just to also add that I represented Jamaica at the high-level meeting to discuss Kenya's perspectives on the MSS in Haiti, and these perspectives are critical to feeding into the gang suppression force, as well as the high-level meeting on women, peace, and security. Jamaica was a part of the starting of that resolution, its development, when we were a member of the UN Security Council as a non-permanent member, and then were a part of its implementation after it was passed when we had stepped out of the presidency, which we had held at that time. So we continue to hold very closely to that. Our CDS actually just stepped down from chairing the chief of the heads of defense forces globally on women, peace, and security, having taken the chair over from Sweden. And there's quite a bit that had happened during that course on which we are now building, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to share more about that as well. Jamaica is now working on our own national women, peace, and security plan that's being led by the Ministry of National Security and Peace, together with our ministry in collaboration, of course, with JCF, JDF, and I know there will be wider stakeholders involved in that process. On On the matter of migration, I participated also in the high-level event on migration at a crossroads, strategic dialogue for a changing world. Here we looked at circular issues in relation to migration, involuntary and voluntary returnees. You know, we're at a particularly interesting time in that. Other countries also had issues in relation to their movement of people and their return migration that's occurring in towards South America at this point in time. And had the opportunity to express appreciation to the IOM for their support in helping us to return Mr. Etoria. That was a matter that had been in the press. He had been diverted to Eswatini and the Kingdom of Eswatini, and working together with their government and with the IOM, we were able to secure his quiet return here. And I want to express appreciation to the members of the press who had made inquiries about this matter, but who were willing to recognize and accept my response that and assurance that we were working on the issue, but that it was so delicate, it was so very sensitive across all the parties, that it was really best not to be issuing releases on the matter until we had achieved the result, which we have, and therefore, and we're very pleased also that his request for a quiet return is also being respected as well. So again, kudos to the press when we all work together for the greater good. Democracy has its checks, and accountability and transparency has its appropriate balance. I want to say thank you for that. On the matter of foreign policy coordination, Jamaica hosted the COFCOR at our mission, and under the chairmanship of St. Kitts Nevis, where we discussed some of the very knotty issues of this time, and also set forward some of our plans for candidatures as a region. Ensuring that as many countries as possible are present on the world stage in positions of importance to them and interest and importance internationally. On the hemispheric and international cooperation realm, I also represented Jamaica at the meetings of CELAC as the CARICOM representative on the extended Troika. What does that mean? The incoming, outgoing, and current president of CELAC are always a part of the Troika. And we had negotiated some years ago that CARICOM should have a seat with those three to be a part of the extended Troika. And that chairmanship or that representation rotates with our chairmanship. So Jamaica is there, and accordingly, I participated in the CELAC Foreign Ministers meeting, the CELAC EU Foreign Ministers meeting, the CELAC China Foreign Ministers meeting, the CELAC India Foreign Ministers meeting, and the CELAC Japan Foreign Ministers meeting. And these, when you hear the sheer number of meetings, you have a sense and understand why. And I will just segue into this. There had been some questions about Jamaica being absent from a vote on a Palestine-related issue. And it really was that the team was all preparing for this meeting. It was not the 80th session, it was a special session that was called at short notice for that particular issue to be taken. And although I hear it being described as a key vote on Palestine, it was a procedural vote to agree for Palestine to be able to issue their national statement virtually. So we have a small team. No one was able to go there. There was never any risk to the vote, and it did have the mass approval as had been expected. I see that people are trying to use it to say that there's a divide or silence or that we're inconsistent, but honestly, as a small country, what we are able to do and what the team in New York is able to do, I'm so proud of them, and I could never diminish the work that they do or that they did in preparing us all. 4 ministers, 3 ministers and a prime minister to attend in all of the meetings, which I'm not even listing all here, for us to ensure that Jamaica is impactful. I think sometimes maybe we need to take a broader and more, yes, maybe. Maybe that's the word to use. But maybe ask a few more questions and then exercise a little more proportionality in terms of the weight that we attach to issues. Again, in deepening multilateral cooperation, as I said, we're there. I also represented Jamaica at the high-level meeting of the like-minded Global South countries and friends. This was convened by India, about 30 countries. To share our views on some of the challenging issues and how we can navigate. The 18th Global Governance Group, that is the 3G Ministers meeting chaired by and convened by Singapore, which ensures that the current, incoming, and former chairs of the G20 are represented at foreign minister level, and as well as the UN and several other countries that share perspectives that we wish to be addressed in the context of the G20. And as I'd shared with you before, Prime Minister Holness has been invited to participate in the Leaders Summit of the G20 in November. And so our presence there was also to speak to some of, well, how it is that we ensure that our priorities, the priorities of CARICOM and small island developing states as a whole, are carried forward into the G20 meeting in November. I also attended and spoke on behalf of Jamaica at the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting, which was held in the margins of the UNGA under the chairmanship of South Africa. And it was a good opportunity to just engage again informally with Minister Lamola prior to our heading to Johannesburg, and to just having some informal fraternal exchanges. SIDS and financing, again, part of our agenda always. The roll-up to COP, but I won't touch on that, or health and wellness any further. Bilateral meetings, again, very useful and important, and we will have more to report on that hopefully in a couple months. And in respect of Norway, Prime Minister Støre, who is also the co-chair of the Ocean Leaders Panel. I myself, as Foreign Minister, met with my counterparts of Portugal, Singapore, Monaco, Philippines, and Cuba to discuss matters of mutual interest and geopolitical issues as well. Diaspora engagement, always a part. We weren't able to do a full town hall arrangement this time because of the short notice and some other unavoidable challenges. But we were wonderfully joined by Ambassador Anderson, who is our new ambassador to Washington, who joined Ambassador Wallace and myself and Prime Minister for a great evening with a grouping of members of the Jamaican community. So it was good to be able to provide some updates and take tough questions, as always, and to discuss avenues for deepening diaspora partnerships and boosting investment for national growth. On the matter of the war in Gaza, just allow me to touch on that quickly, because I issued late last night a response in the press to a release and a statement that had been issued saying that Jamaica's silence on this issue and our failure to exercise solidarity with Palestine, that, I hear people uttering adjectives about it being embarrassing, etc. And in fact, there was a learned individual who actually said that, and I don't know, maybe what I heard was edited text, but he said that it was embarrassing that developed countries like the UK were present recognizing Palestine while Jamaica was in hiding, when Jamaica recognized Palestine last year. So I really ask sometimes when people want to discuss matters that are of national, have importance for national reputation and global reputation, whether they are doing sufficient research and making sufficient inquiries about these matters. And, or their sister head, Prime Minister Motley, spoke in her statement about a crisis of truth globally. And a lot of people have really hearkened to this concept, this crisis of truth. And I just invite us here in Jamaica that while we celebrate headlines that bring attention to this type of concern, that they recognize that those issues need to start at home, that democracies are at threat and multilateralism is at threat, where truth is no longer valued. So I was going to let the release just go because, I know that it wasn't true. Prime Minister spoke on the matter, and I have, repeated in the press what he had said. We recognized Palestine last year. We have not only issued statements nationally at the heads level within CARICOM, at the foreign ministers level within CARICOM, at CARICOM caucus level within the UN, at the ambassadorial level. But we have always, historically, we have always supported Resolution 242, which is the one that calls for a two-state solution. When we recognized Palestine last year, we also indicated that this was, to us, still remain the safest path to having both states, both peoples living in security and peace. It won't be easy. It was never recognized or thought that it would be easy, and the road is clearly a difficult one. We have called for a ceasefire. We have condemned actions on both sides, and the reality is that we don't practice our diplomacy in a performative way. We don't. We believe we should be at the table, we should engage, we must always be the voice of reason, we must always be a respected voice, and we continue to make every effort so to do. And so I just encourage individuals who are passionate about these issues, because I recognize that where emotion runs high, sometimes you may veer away from fact. But if we are indeed to combat a crisis of truth globally, we need to make sure that we don't create the same issues nationally. And so I just encourage those who are interested in these issues to look back at the facts, to look back at the consistency of our positions, and indeed to ensure that we keep our democracy sound by making sure that we put truth at the forefront at all times. So thank you for your time and attention. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Don't go yet. We're going to take the question.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Minister. Just a gentle reminder, we are asking persons who have their questions, please stand, state your name and the entity you're from.
Morning, everyone. Mahir Stewart, Nationwide News here. Question for Senator Johnson Smith. In terms of the meeting, the Consulate General meeting in New York with the diaspora members, could you just expound a bit on what kind of concerns and just things in general were raised by the members of the diaspora and what the response was from the government?
As Minister comes up, I know that I saw Minister Abka Fitz-Henley. I don't see him anymore. I don't know if he's still in here, but he was here, and I just wanted to acknowledge his presence today.
In his absence.
Yes.
Abka, make yourself known. Thank you very much for the question. So, surprisingly, most of the questions surrounded health infrastructure. The very, very first question was about the government's approach to mental health in light of the suicide of Tyra, of blessed memory, and what is our approach on the multilateral agenda in respect of suicides and mental health. Another question was about health infrastructure and the availability of resources. The other question was about the ability to donate, what our philanthropic, what processes can be even further improved, and in particular around the reduction of costs and the waiver of more levies in respect of philanthropic donations by the diaspora. There were questions about business, about investments, and about making it easier to invest. And in fact, some positive feedback was also provided, in particular on health donations and the process for health donation, as opposed to other more broadly, broader categories. So it was there were actually different questions around those themes. It seemed to be a great area of concern. There were also commendations for progress that has been made in terms of crime and security, and that this was in fact encouraging more of them to explore purchasing homes and second homes here, and also more considerations about return. So thank you. It's a broader discussion.
Thank you, Mahiri.
By Harriet from CVN. Minister, You mentioned or you explained why Jamaica was missing from the vote. Are you in a position to say why Jamaica decided against walking out alongside other countries during Israel's Prime Minister's address?
Yes, and I've actually said so publicly already. I am happy to repeat that this is not the practice of Jamaica's diplomacy, that we prefer to listen, to be at a table, to engage, whether we agree or disagree. As I just stated earlier, that we are not performative in our practice of diplomacy. The walkout, as I understand, it wasn't even a walkout by the whole UN. UN is 193 members. I think the greatest estimate I saw was 70. I'm not sure at what level. And as I stated before, we're not judging countries who choose to act in this way. We're not criticizing them. That's their choice. But the reason Jamaica, or one of the reasons that Jamaica is always a respected voice, is because of our willingness to always engage. And that is something we don't resile from. We are not a chest-beating administration. We're not ego-based. We're not image-based. And we are really focused on solutions. So we called for the things which we believe are important, as we have continued to. And being present, or rather not being present, would not have advanced or harmed a position in any way. So I cannot explain anymore beyond what I have already stated. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Minister Morris Dixon, my next question is for you. So there was a recent report from UNICEF which stated that for the first time in history, the global prevalence of obesity among school-aged children and adolescents aged 5 to 19 surpassed that of underweight in 2025. Now, Minister, within the last few months alone, you've spoken extensively about nutrition in school because,
Yes,
as we all know, hungry kids can't learn, right?
Yep.
But what concrete measures are being put in place to ensure that Jamaica isn't trading one problem for the next? So in this case, we're trading hunger for obesity.
All right, that's a very good question, and as always, I acknowledge you as a Prime Minister Youth Awardee. But the question around nutrition is a big one, and I think if you listen to our Minister of Health, he's always talking about training, and this is not just regular training. It was actually one of the things on my list that I didn't go through, so I actually have a whole long section on it right here. And so 300 school cooks across Jamaica were trained by Heart NSTA, and it's called the Range Cook Job Qualification. And what was happening here was that we were teaching them how to provide nutritious meals. And so it's not chicken and rice every day. So what we've done is to do new menus for the schools. We've also looked at innovative ways to deliver vegetables. So even with young children, when they see the green things, they don't want it. And so we were teaching them how to hide the nice vegetables in their food. We're also looking at how you can cost effectively, because that's another important thing, how to cost effectively deliver nutritious meals. And so that training was being done because we understand that it's not just us using words. It actually has to have action. And so those 300 cooks are set to receive their qualification. It's a NC TVET qualification that they'll become official range cooks. So they're getting certified. They have their piece of paper, which is what you want. You want to also empower them to think differently about the nutrition of our children. So we're doing that work. We're also emphasizing physical education because that's key. Because you want them to eat properly, but you also want them to be active. And Jamaica Moves in Schools is very big, and we are continuing to emphasize that and emphasizing physical activity at the same time. So you're correct that we have to be very careful, because the problems we see in older Jamaicans, the NCD problem, we start early. It starts at a young age. And so we understand that in the Ministry of Education, and that's why we're taking steps like this. And you'll be hearing more initiatives that we're doing in terms of nutrition in the schools. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is
morning.
Brianna Brown. I'm a student studying business and IR at the UWI Mona, and I'm also a member of our Model UN team. So my question is, of course, to Senator Johnson Smith. It was mentioned during the briefing that Jamaica and New Zealand will be leading the resolution mandates implementation review at UN 80. So which UN resolution implementation mandates would Jamaica, along with New Zealand, prioritize first in this process?
Good question.
Okay, A for the question, but I'm not going to get A for the answer because we're at the very start of the process. And as chair, we wouldn't really want to predetermine how the process is going to, well, what the process will prioritize or not. As I indicated, it's over 2,000 mandates that have to be assessed. So as to whether they're going to use a timeline or use a subject matter line, that's still being worked out and being worked out in consultations. Because one of the great successes that we've had, and we had it in the Pact for the Future a year ago, is that the process that Jamaica led, and that one was together with the Netherlands, was the only process that actually had a full consensus at the end, because we're really very intentional about how we bring everyone on board. So part of that is not predetermining and allowing views to be taken on board first. But thank you for that thoughtful question.
Very good.
I'll let Ambassador know he needs to be on point. He's being one.
You have one more?
Yes, we have 2 more questions,
Okay.
Mr. Amoy.
All right, Minister, again.
Sure.
All right, so I believe Minister Johnson Smith just mentioned that suicide concerns came up during the General Assembly. Is that correct?
No.
The
Diaspora.
diaspora, all right, thank you for that correction. And it's been a national conversation in recent weeks because of reports that we've seen from several, different parishes across the island, especially among our children. Now, Minister, you've been vocal about wanting, other kids to report bullying in schools, which bullying is being cited as one of the factors, or believed to be one of the factors.
Yeah.
But to borrow the term used by the JTA, what targeted approach is being implemented by the ministry to address this issue of bullying in schools?
All right, I'm going to start, and my PS can also join and add to it. Bullying is an issue. The manifesto. In the manifesto, there's an entire section there on bullying, and that was a priority of this administration. This is an administration, when we write manifestos, we write it based on real knowledge of what's happening in our system. This issue of bullying is something that I saw as I went around to schools. It is actually a conversation I started many months before the election with UNICEF, because you don't want to do interventions that are just piecemeal. Because a lot of times in Jamaica, we do, okay, this seems right. It feels right. Let me do this intervention. Let me work with the students in this way. But there are international standards and international programs that have worked. And the key thing for me in going to UNICEF was saying, we have this issue. It's an issue you see in other countries. And there must be standards in relation to how we address it. And also studies that have been done that show that this approach works and that doesn't work. And so we're already actually quite advanced in the work with UNICEF in looking at an anti-bullying campaign that gets to the heart of the issues. So remember, we don't just want to put a Band-Aid on a problem. That's not our administration's approach to anything. It's about understanding deeply what the issue is. And we have many different sets of issues that are occurring. You have the person who is doing the bullying, who often is coming from a particular environment, and that we have to do work there. In the CPFSA, we met last week on the same bullying issue, and we were looking at children who may be exhibiting bullying behavior, and we're looking at having some of our therapeutic centers that we've written about and that we're implementing, having those therapeutic centers used for them and their families. We're actually looking at bringing the families in too. So it's not a Band-Aid that we are looking at in the Ministry of Education. we are having a mental wellness week in our schools where we're going to open up and talk more. If you look at our HFLE syllabus for schools that exist currently, it is in there. When you talk to children, talk to your first formers, they'll tell you that there are sessions where they sit and they speak about mental health. We have brought it into the curriculum. So when we talk about this administration again, we don't just say things, we're doing it. It's in our curriculum. So when you take up your HFLE syllabus, you see the focus on mental health. We're also working with the Ministry of Health on wellness gardens on the benches. And our Deans of Discipline associations will tell you that their focus as Deans of Discipline has been on providing spaces of wellness because they realize it can't just all be punitive, just giving suspensions. We also have to look at how we empower our children to tap into the emotions and feelings they have. But there's also more to it. I can go on all day on this, but there's more to it. When we talk about peace in our country, we talk about violence prevention in our country. So that work that our Violence Prevention Commission has been doing is critical. And that's going to be coming soon, and we'll be talking about it at Post-Cab here. Because there are elements in our society, cultural norms too, that we're going to have to address if we want to truly do this. But we have to be strong on this bullying issue. Our guidance counselors or principals know that the ministry has empowered them to act strongly against it. There is no room for it in our system. No room at all. And they know that. But at the same time, we are also going to do what we have to do in order to create spaces for children to feel safe, at least at school. The reality is they don't feel safe at home. They don't feel safe in their communities in many instances. And so we have to be using the school as that avenue to give them that sense of self and validation. And we are ready to do it. We are doing it. You're going to hear the anti-bullying campaign. You will be hearing also when we have our wellness week in schools, it will be across the entire country, where we're going to be putting in place a lot of these initiatives. We also have already hotlines that our children can use. They are using it. We have been disseminating it a lot more across the system. So if anyone is having any kind of mental health challenge, and I always tell people it's okay. It's okay. In Jamaica, sometimes you don't want to admit it, but we have to demystify it, break it down, stop making it seem like a stigma. There are Jamaicans who are struggling with their mental health for whatever reason, and it's okay. And there is help. There are hotlines that we have. There are people who are going to take your call, that are going to treat it seriously. Don't suffer alone. Don't suffer alone. All right. Okay, those weren't what I was expecting, but I'm going to move on. And I have someone who is quite dear, guests, and also for the media who are here. It's an area that's very important, and it is cyber security. And October 1 is starts Cybersecurity Month. And so I am going to invite to speak to you the head of the CERT, and he'll tell you what the CERT actually does. But Lieutenant Colonel retired Godfrey Sterling, the director of the Cyber Incident Response Team Division, is here, and we ask that you welcome him.
Thank you, Minister Dixon, and in the interest of time, I will work with the protocols already observed. Minister Johnson-Smith, I enjoy your presentations as always, and I look forward to working more closely with you and the diasporans to bring cybersecurity to more Jamaicans in a shorter time. So Cybersecurity Awareness Month really is something that we do yearly. We started in 2015. This represents our 10th year commemorating the month. And it also coincides with the 10th year of existence of the Cyber Incident Response Team Division within government. The challenge we face this year, 2025 in particular, has been that in looking back at 2024, and in some cases in 2023, the challenges globally have not changed, and the attitude globally towards fixing these challenges have not improved. So globally, the theme has not changed, and while we have changed the national theme, we kept it in sync with the global theme, because what we really want is to impact all our constituents at the mindset level in terms of how you treat with cybersecurity. And so the key focus areas that we're looking at for this year are what are the risks that are associated with cybersecurity and how we approach it. If we think just about the threats but not the impact, then we sometimes don't appreciate the risk that come with it. And so when we talk about how we are going to mitigate vulnerabilities and remediate breaches, we have to look at how we do so securely. And this really begins with the creation of a secure talent pipeline that will deliver in the near, medium, and long term skilled professionals in a very sustainable manner, so that we don't have to necessarily look abroad for the talent, and we can actually find persons to do the work who are coming out of universities, not just theoretically enabled, but practically empowered to hit the ground running. So what the CERT division aims to do this year, and very fortuitously, October has 5 weeks this year, if you look at it that way. So we get an extra week to really sort of engage with you in a more amplified way. But we start the first week by looking at just how the public sector delivers cybersecurity to Jamaica, for Jamaicans, on behalf of the government. The government is really a facilitator for cybersecurity. And what we do is facilitate the other two bubbles. The next layer out is the bodies corporate, both public and private, that must deliver secure data collection, storage, and the provision of services or access to services to the people. And the third layer are you, the individuals. How do you treat with simple things like your own cyber hygiene or cyber delinquency, your own devices, and what practices do you take into the workplace, and how those practices impact the delivery of secure services and the creation of data-safe spaces. Then we recognize that government can't do it alone, so we're going to focus in week 2 on the private sector. And here we're looking primarily at the medium, small, and micro enterprises, recognizing that for a lot of these enterprises, cybersecurity for them is still the concept, it will not happen to me. But as we look to leverage technology, a lot of these entities are doing PCI type data collection. So you go, you use a card or you use your phone to pay for services and goods. They're taking that information, they're storing it, sometimes in very insecure manners. And so what we're trying to do is to bring them on board so that they appreciate cost-effective and sometimes free services that can help them to improve the security of your data at a point of collection, while it is stored, when it is in transit, and to ensure that they can demonstrate that they destroy your data when they no longer have a need for it. Week 3, we're going to look at the citizenry in communities. We've started this with the Ministry of National Security with our community cyber programs, and we've had 2 so far. One in Kingston, one in Montego Bay. What we found during these things was that there are a lot of members of the communities who don't really appreciate what cybersecurity does for them, and the secure use here is really to focus on the schools, the children. 2 years ago, we pivoted from focusing on university students, and we started looking at the primary level. And the idea here is that the next generation of cyber professionals, warriors, are not people who look like me, not even people who look like you. They're the toddlers who are running around with the little blocks and the phones, they're taking your phones, they're using their tablets. Those are the next generation of cyber professionals. But if you go into a primary school and you ask, what does a cybersecurity professional look like? Nobody really knows. So we're going to, over the next 5 years, create the content, teach or train the teachers to deliver this content, and work it into the curriculum. We've already started the work with the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth, and Information, and we're going to ensure that this is not just a one-off for the 5 years, but a sustainable process. At the secondary level, we recognize that there's an ICT curriculum in place. We're going to add cybersecurity to that, develop the content, train the deliverers of this content, and we're going to make it so that by the time you get to fifth form or upper six, you appreciate the career paths, you appreciate the value of cyber, and you are willing to see cyber as a viable career opportunity. At a university level, we're going to, with the UCJ, the University Council of Jamaica, conduct a desk review of all the currently approved cybersecurity programs. What we're looking to do here is to streamline the delivery of content and to ensure that it is being done to international best practices. Where there are gaps, we will work with the entities to fix these. But we also recognize that the persons leaving university, while theoretically empowered and enabled, can't do the work practically. So if you deliver a cybersecurity program, we're going to see whether or not you have the capacity to deliver the practical component. If you have it, but it needs work, we will help you to fix it. If you don't, we will help you to build it. This requires significant partnership, and cybersecurity, as I've always said, is a team sport. In week 4, we're going to focus on the national critical infrastructure, our energy sector, transportation, telecommunications, those engines of efficiencies that drive national progress. And we have to do this because the compromise of any of these entities will have significant knock-on effects for everybody concerned. And to do that in practical terms, when we look over the last 2 years at the cyber activity within the financial sector, we have chosen the financial sector as the area of focus this year. And so right here at Jamaica House, on the back lawns, we will have a simulation exercise that chronicles the attack on the financial sector that over a period of time cripples it, and how we as a country, including the incident response teams within the banks, the regulators, the Financial Services Commission and the BOJ, law enforcement, the JCF and MOCA, as well as your national CERT, will tackle this problem and respond so that in the event it actually happens, you're assured that your country has the resources to at least get the ball rolling in terms of identifying the issue, containing the problem, responding in terms of sanitation, and have the capacity to upskill, upman if the need arises. So Cybersecurity Awareness Day will take place on October 30. The opening ceremony will be in this very room, and some of you will be invited back to participate. But the day's activities will take place on the back lawn, and it will feature this immersive experience into how the financial sector responds to and secure your digital assets. Before we get there on the 23rd, we have National Cybersecurity Awareness Month Career Day. And this will take place at the University of Technology in Lecture Theatre 50. And what we're hoping to do this year is to do more than just talk to you. We'll have a virtual tour of our Security Operations Center since we can't take you there. And we will show you what a day in the life of a cybersecurity professional in a Security Operations Center in Jamaica at the national level looks like. Ladies and gentlemen, your national cybersecurity setup has an average age of 22 years. That's how young the team that protects your country is. And the idea here is that as persons like me step away, succession planning is in place and the future is guaranteed. We will have a number of marketing strategies that we have implemented. We have already had the think tank at the GIS, and this went well, if we may say so ourselves. There'll be cyber nuggets that we will push out. There'll be trivia questions and quizzes and answer. And the signature events for this year really remains the Career Symposium, which we're targeting all 3 levels of the education sector here in Jamaica. And CyberXJM, which is our national cybersecurity exercise, is being reintroduced. We had a challenge with the platform provider who retooled, refocused, and no longer provided the services that we required. And the procurement process to get a new platform does take a while. But we believe we've identified one such, and we're going to have the exercise this year again. And what this is, it's really bringing all the stakeholders within a particular sector or nationally together to demonstrate in practical terms what would happen in the event there was a cyber incident that had national impact or import. But we must make mention of who serves you and what we've been doing for the last 10 years. Cybersecurity as a concern in Jamaica really started with the catalyst of the large-scale website defacement in 2013. And I remember I was a captain in our Intelligence and Operations Center at the time when the state minister in the Ministry of Energy and Technology visited, and we had no solution. Even though I had been advocating for cyber from a military standpoint, there was no national solution. Through the OS and the CERT of Uruguay, we were able to fix the problem. But coming out of that, the government of the day decided that we needed to fix this. And so in 2015, the division was born and the National Cybersecurity Strategy was promulgated. This led to significant changes in how we looked at cyber, because for the first time in Jamaica, we could see some of what was happening in our cyberspace. We did not have to rely on consolidated data for North America or the Caribbean region. Between 2017 and 2019, there was a need to retool. And so the broader plan Secure Jamaica, which was created to deliver on the safety and security component of the government's mandate, had a cyber component. And the CERT was a beneficiary here. But then the pandemic struck, and we had to pivot from being just a response capability for government to looking proactively at our entire attack surface and being able to manage the threats that we were seeing. And so the creation of the National Security Operations Center took place. In 2022, we actually achieved full operational capacity with this facility. And what we were able to do from then on was to actually deliver statistics for Jamaica from Jamaica. What it allowed us to do is to say to individuals and entities, these are the vulnerabilities we're seeing for your entity or for your space, and this is how we recommend you fix it, so that you could mitigate the impact of a breach should it occur. But we had to be able to do this in a sustainable way. And so the creation of the Strengthening Cybersecurity in Jamaica project took place. This took about 3 years to happen. The IDB board approval for the loan funding was received just last week, but we would have gotten the approval of the cabinet to enter the project into the PSIP in March. And so starting this month, we're going full steam ahead. And what this project will do is to actually leverage the existing technologies to bolster how government delivers cybersecurity and how we can protect you. From a training standpoint, we would have just launched the Jamaica Cyber Youth Empowerment Academy together with SANS. Currently, it's funded by the government of Canada, but what we're seeking to do over the next 5 years is to brand this as Jamaican. It is the first instance of this academy within the region, and we're hoping to keep it going after the funding by the Canadians run out. Within the financial sector, working with the BOJ, post the 2023 breach of the FSC, we created CCJM, which is a secure, trusted platform for participating banks and the regulators to work with law enforcement and the CERT to secure more robustly the financial sector. Just yesterday, we closed the applications for the Vincula LAC program, where we invited 500 Jamaicans from all walks of life to apply for cybersecurity and other digital training. The program was oversubscribed by almost 25%. And we're looking to push this sort of engagement forward to ensure that the cybersecurity talent pipeline is secure and is sustainable. And so I took the time at the end of telling you about the month to tell you about the CERT and the 10 years that we've been delivering cybersecurity on behalf of government of Jamaica to the people and our sovereign interests. And we encourage you, if you have any questions, to let us know.
Thank you very much. It's a very important month, and I know the work that you do, a lot of it is very quiet work being done behind the scenes. Whenever there is a cyber breach, the team at the CERT, whether it's in the public sector or the private sector, is actually quite involved in terms of trying to contain whatever breach there is and also trying to respond and working with them. So that's something for Jamaicans don't know that government does. So if a private sector entity has a problem, they are breached, the CERT actually works with them and provides services and helps them. So it's very important work that's being done. I'm very glad to hear that the funding is coming in place for some of the additional equipment that's needed. But it is really fantastic work that the team does, and I want to thank you and congratulate you. Are there any questions? Okay, yes, I see one hand up, and the microphone is already there.
Morning again, everyone. Questions for each speaker. I'm going to start with Minister. Minister, we do have an incident right now in Manchester in which a student from Manchester High has been reported missing since last week.
Yes.
And obviously, in terms of surveilling students once they leave school grounds, we know the responsibility that the schools have and national security. But in terms of us as citizens, the everyday citizen, what responsibility do we have in terms of ensuring that children who are on the road don't loiter and get to where they need to get to? Children who are lost and may not know where to go can get an adequate way of getting home. And on top of that, in terms of students that are missing or children in general that are missing, what responsibility do we as citizens have in aiding the process in finding them?
Thank you very much for putting your question the way you did. We're all very concerned. This morning I did speak to the Commissioner of Police on this particular matter to get an update on the search. They're working really hard. The military has been involved. Even the fire brigade is involved. They've been scouring CCTV cameras around the area trying to locate him. They've not been successful, but they're not stopping. But it's important. He was seen at particular areas. And it's important that all of us see children as our children. Every child is ours. And this notion that we had in the past that every child was ours and that raising children was a community affair, we have to get back to that. I have reports of students missing schools because in particular areas they're out at commercial spaces, hanging out at the time of school. But those establishments allow them to come in when they should be at school. It's a responsibility that all of us have. We have to understand that our children need us to really care for them. It's not just their parents. It's the entire community that has to do it. And so as we do the search, as we continue this search, let it remind us that every child is our child. We can't see it like somebody else's problem. And so if we see a child that needs support, needs help, we need to provide that support and help to channel them in the right direction. We can't see them on the road in the middle of the day and not say, why are you here? What's going on? Why aren't you at school? How can I help you? Do you need me to put you on to someone? Do I need to call CPFSA? If I know that I hear something next door, quietly call. Every child is our child, and every child matters. So we are praying really hard for his safe return. The police, they're doing everything. And this morning when I called the commissioner, he had just gotten his briefing from the commanding officers. And so this is not something being taken lightly. It is something that we're all quite concerned about. Get another one. Oh, cyber.
Okay. So, I guess my question from a cybersecurity standpoint would be, in terms of the average citizen and maybe even the average business, what would you say is the most common mistake that we make on a daily basis where our cybersecurity is concerned?
Thank you for the question. The short answer would be that we think it won't happen to us. And the long answer would be that we don't take enough time to understand the technology we're trying to use and to understand our responsibility to those who we're providing services to or whose data we're collecting in order to do that in a safe and secure manner. When we look at some of the most egregious breaches that we've responded to, it comes down to misconfiguration of perimeter security systems. What does that say to us? It's either that the systems were not set up properly, either through the use of persons not qualified to do it, or just cutting corners. But in the end, your data was at risk. And when we look at our personal systems, it's how we approach the digitally enabled world we live in. So we believe we must be out there, we must share, we must overshare. We do not take into consideration the size of our digital footprint and the need to, from time to time, sanitize that. So for the general public, the idea is to stop being a cyber delinquent. Appreciate that you live in a digital environment, you're a digital citizen. Those devices that you use are no longer the Nokia 3310s. You carry your lives in your pockets. So if you have to use it, then lock it and take it with you. And for businesses, understand that data is your new currency. And you must securely collect, store, and transmit that data. But you must also get rid of it in a demonstrable and secure manner when you no longer have use for it. If we take those things as individuals and individuals' entity, and then group them into communities as a nation, we will move cybersecurity forward.
Thank you. Okay, so this is our last one for today.
Good morning, everyone. Jerome Williams from the Jamaica Observer. Question for Lieutenant Sterling on the cybersecurity issue. At the start of your presentation, you mentioned that the challenges have not changed and the attitude has not changed. Could you specify some of the challenges that you're referring to and the attitude as well? And also, based on your assessment compared to previous years, how susceptible are Jamaicans to cybersecurity threats?
Thank you for the question. Not sure we have time today to answer all of it in a fulsome way, but I will try. So I will deal with the common threats last, as we treat with the attitude first. And globally, what we're seeing is that the geopolitics of current tensions and wars are driving significant hacking activities. If we recall the start of the Russia-Ukraine war, all the known actors then chose a side. When we look at the Palestine, Israel, and to some extent the Hezbollah conflict in the Middle East, all their actors are targeting each other and allies of those parties to the conflict. What it means is that the region, which is seen to have a significant attack surface with soft targets, become very enticing to hackers as they seek not only to target the parties in the conflict, but also to target associates of, with a view to get in through a third layer or a third border, if you will look at it that way. Now, couple that with the fact that cybercrime, if it were a nation, would be the third largest economy in the world, behind only the US and China. What we have is a situation where your data, access to your systems in an unauthorized way, represents significant financial gain for those who are willing to do it. The attitude towards this globally has been fueled by the neo-nationalism that is now really sort of taking over the world, where countries are looking inwards rather than to their neighbors for certain things. And so what you find is that technologies that could help small nations like ours secure certain systems become very difficult to access. So if we look, for example, to buy certain technologies out of, say, the US, the State Department has to be involved, and they have to approve the export of those technologies. So when companies, public or private, are doing significantly sensitive work to get the technologies to adequately secure their operations is very difficult. And when you take that down to the individuals whose attitude to cyber is such that they're cross-pollinating the use of devices with personal and corporate work, and they're bringing those challenges back into the workplace. Many workplaces don't have a quarantine period. So you leave for the weekend, you use the corporate device, you come back on Monday, you plug into the network. There's no quarantine. So you're bringing whatever you did on the weekend into your corporate space. Now, if you take that to look at the threats, as we move towards digital currencies, the ability to infiltrate or to compromise crypto exchanges is very lucrative. When we talk about the breaches of your credentials, username, password, sometimes privileges, we don't take that very seriously. So for Jamaica, an island of 3 million people with 3.05 million concurrent connections daily on the internet, more than 70% of which come from a mobile device, and more than 50% of that, 70%, coming from single IP addresses, which suggests that every individual is connected by more than 2 devices. What we have are credentials out there that work in the organization, that have been compromised, have not been remediated, and so when we find it, we can actually get into the organization. Our responsible action is to lock the account and contact the organization. But for the cyber criminal, it's a treasure trove. So the common threats are the compromise of credentials. And oftentimes it's not the actual entity that you work in that has been compromised, but you use your corporate credentials to sign up on questionable sites and platforms. They get compromised and your credentials get stolen. The second is how you treat with data loss prevention. We do not do it. So anybody in an organization with access can send anything out of the organization. And so what you find is that emails are sent, data is copied. The use of thumb drives, for example, is not something that should be allowed in certain workplaces or even for certain individuals based on what they do and who they are. But it happens. And then thirdly, social media and what we put out there. And the fact that to feel that we belong, we overshare. It's compounded by the Internet of Things. The smart doorbell, the smart door lock, the smart speaker, the smart fridge, the smart washer. For these things to be smart, they're always listening to you. So even though you're not giving it instructions, it is listening, it is digesting, it is transmitting so that it can build a profile and refine an algorithm to better serve you. But where does that data go? Now, in terms of some of the things that we can do is to actually take a step back. And the first thing as individuals we need to do is ask ourselves, is my digital footprint optimal for me? Do I need to reduce it? Do I need to sanitize it? The second thing is my device optimally maintained? Am I patching? Am I upgrading? Am I updating? The third thing is, who has my digital secrets? Do I share my passwords? Do I share the SSID for my Wi-Fi at home? Many of the modern routers allow you to create segmented Wi-Fi setups at home. So your guests don't have to use the one you use, your children don't have to use the one you use, and if you work from home, you can create an even more secure version. So we have to take those things into consideration in order to halt the cyber delinquency and begin to raise our cyber hygienic practices so that we improve that. Now, if as individuals we practice that and take it into the businesses, then we will drive the change to have better policies, better systems, and better ability to recognize when challenges occur. And then the biggest problem, we have to get over the feeling of being a victim when something does happen. We must report it because us at the CERT cannot manage what we can't measure. And that low or no reporting is our biggest challenge to cybersecurity.
Thank you. I saw a lot of scared faces in the audience. What he is saying is correct. Even just what we click on. There have been some WhatsApp incidents, Colonel, of WhatsApp's being taken over because persons clicked on links. So be very careful when you get a file sent to you. You don't have to click on everything. But it's very sobering. It's a great reminder you're excellent at what you do. You always have been. And we're very glad to have you in our public sector. You know, we have the best public sector in the world. And you're one of the examples of that. And I hope everybody will leave here not just scared, but ready to make some changes in terms of your digital habits. All right, so we're at the end of a long postcap, but a very good one. Who would have thought that cybersecurity would have linked so well with foreign policy? There's a beautiful connection there. And so I want to thank you all for being here. Just reminding you that we've started Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's October 1. It is that month. And we will talk a bit more about that in another post-cabinet press briefing, really looking at the state of our women and women's health in one of our post-cabinet press briefings. On Sunday, it is also World Teachers' Day. And there'll be several activities to commemorate that. Our teachers are absolutely critical to everything that we do, and so there'll be several celebrations there. And there is... Come on.
Just that we have an international undertaking that will be... well, it speaks to the moment, so that in November we expect to sign the UN Cybercrime Convention in Vietnam. So Jamaica has been a big part of leading the negotiations on behalf of CARICOM within the UN system, and it's been our technical team has been working very collaboratively with all the relevant teams at MNS, etc. So my team was just reminding me that we are anticipating signing in November. So I thought, what better time
than to say it now.
First of its kind.
Oh, very good. So again, the connections there, and again, showcasing the work of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in terms of not just, what you think of traditionally in terms of their work, but really what they do impacts every single ministry. They are the engine that moves a lot of things. Even in my ministry, Ministry of Education, we can't do what we do without the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also in terms of the diaspora work that they do. But it's a great morning for us as Jamaicans to feel good about ourselves. As I sat there listening to our Minister of Foreign Affairs and all she did in UN, and also the work of our Prime Minister and our other ministers who went, you can't not be proud. You can't not be proud of our country being asked to lead in many ways on the global Ministry of Foreign Affairs team for all of that work. And we stand tall as Jamaicans globally. And that is a fact. We don't have to go and say things that are not true. We have to focus on the truth. And the truth is that Jamaica stands tall globally. We are looked at as one of the leading voices